the Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings. Week 17, DraftKings Picks and Preview. Remember to smash the like button to the episode, sub to Mayo Media Network, and for the love of God, play in the Pat Mayo Experience Listeners League. It's only half full. It's Friday, people. Let's get in there. The link is down in the description. 2,500 spots, 3 max entry, $15 to play, no rake, the best tournament on DraftKings. Additionally, let's continue to fill up the one-and-done pool for fantasy golf season. It starts at the Sony Open, which is in 2 weeks' time. It's almost half full already, and as we know with any sort of pool or any sort of league that, you know, once we start getting closer to the deadline, all of the entries are going to pile in. So don't wait, because enough people miss it every single year, and they're like, well, why can't I get into it after it starts? Why are there no spots left? Get your spot now. You can have up to 5 of them, and if you screenshot me one of your entries, I will put you in a draw for a free entry. How about that? Hit the description or just go to fantasygolfchampionships.com. $50,000 to first prize. And guess what, Tambo? If you win, you'll get paid.
I will. Perfect. That's the good news these days in the DFS and betting streets, for sure. Definitely want to get my money out of it.
Yeah, when the site that's running the company also owns LeagueSafe, you're pretty good with your money there. They're making escrow off your money over the course of the years. So the name
has safe in it. I think you'll be all right. Yes.
Yeah, that's a good branding tool. Safe.
It's good. People like that.
I mean, I think that's what most sites use for like the non-DraftKings of the world. Like even like MFL and things like that. I think that's where they put their money, is in LeagueSafe, because that's the one purpose for that tool existing, is to store your money, and they're going to make like 0.8% interest off the money as it's held throughout the year, and then they give it back to you.
They'll take
it's easy stuff, and you get the safety of it all happening. $35,000 the second prize as well. We did our fantasy golf draft. Feinberg and I have the preview out. I was going to drop the golf draft on Monday, and then I realized that golf actually starts next week.
Yes, we'll be back.
I thought it was in 2 weeks. I don't know why.
Well, you're thinking of the Sony Open, the first.
I know, but I thought it was like 2 weeks. I thought the Sony Open was in 3 weeks. It shouldn't start the first week of January, is all I'm saying. Make it the second week of January.
There should always be a debate here about the longer break in golf, because it feels like it never ended. We had Tiger going off all December, so it felt like there was actually no break from golf, but definitely good to be back. And DraftKings has huge contests for week 1, even for just the Tournament of Champions. $200K up top, 2 different contests with $100K up top. It's going to be a lot going on for that week, so it should be good.
Yeah, my Listeners League is also open for that right now, too. If you want to reserve your spot, that's down in the description. Let's fill the NFL one. So if we can fill the NFL one this week, I'll probably make it a bit smaller for week 18. People are just less interested in week 18. We'll still do a show for week 18, but if we can continue to fill that up pretty quickly, they might give me a golf and football one all rake free throughout the playoffs as well, which would be a ton of, at least for week 1 and 2 of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because then we get into like the championship games, and it's basically just a showdown contest.
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of contests out there at that point, but like I said, for the other weeks, it should be okay.
How are you feeling about the injury situation this week? Like, is this going to be a week where you're good with making your lineups Friday and Saturday, make a final adjustment on Sunday, or is this hey, let's wait till Sunday and see how these injuries shake out, then I'll start to build?
I'm not changing much my process this week. I mean, 13 games, a lot of games for sure, and there's just some injuries out there. So what I'm mostly going to do is probably same as always, get to Saturday, build up what I can, see where everything lies, and then see how we adjust on Sunday. I will say this, the Sunday adjustments have not been kind this season. If you remember some of the last-minute news come out, Ramondre, just I think it was last week, I believe. Yeah, let's go plug Ramondre in now against Cincinnati. That's going to be a great spot. Nope. A couple weeks before, we had the J.K. Dobbins, Kenyon Drake situation where, he's out, we'll get the other guy in, let's go. Nope, not going to work there. So, yeah, you definitely want to be careful with these Sunday late news spots. If you already feel good about your stuff, don't feel inclined that you have to change it. There's definitely spots that will come up in some cases where it makes it just that much better and you feel the need to jam it. But remember, we don't have these $3,000, $4,000 running backs anymore that you're seeing very often, at least pop up. 4,000 could be a thing, but we don't have that every given week. So I'm just not adjusting too much based on that.
You said there's an awesome tournament this week.
Yeah, DraftKings has an incredible tournament. It's not for everyone's bankroll. There's lots of ways to win tickets. You can win them in NBA streets tonight. You can win them over the weekend, I'm sure, on Saturday to get in. They're just pumping it. That's part of the reason it's awesome, by the way, is because some people will get in there with just one lineup. They want off a ticket, which is great for them. It's an excellent opportunity, but there could be mistakes made, so a little bit more casual money in the tournament. The tournament's $2,222, whatever, but $2,222, but it is 2,500-ish people. it is $1 million to first. I think it's 500 or 400 to second, and it just sort of trickles down like 400, 300, 200, 100, 100. Very nice setup. It's got a tournament champions up top.
Yeah, $1 million to first, 500K, 300,000, 200,000, 150, 100, 75, 75, 50, 50, 40, 40, 30, 30. It sounds like they've just taken the payout from the Pat Mayo Experience Listeners League and applied it to this tournament.
It's very nice. What's the min cash and min payout position?
The min payout, it goes down to as low as 470th place of a tournament of 2,500, and that pays 3,500.
Yeah,
you don't get double your money, but you get 1.5.
And they're paying out a little more than the norm, right? So it's decent. It's definitely a good tournament if you can get into it. If you can't, there's lots of other great tournaments on there. I just have interest in that. I've already got a couple tickets to it, so I'll probably add 2 or 3 more. We'll see how things shake out and how I feel. But it's sort of the last ditch to end of the season. Week 18, we're going to break it down. It's a lot of fun from a strategy perspective, almost the preseason feel. Game sitting, mattering, motivation, all those things that we'll talk about. But this is kind of the big last hurrah for that stuff. So I definitely am interested in that tournament for sure.
Additionally, what was I going to say? I'm probably not going to play in the 22-22. Okay. I won $0 on the main slate last week. Won it all back on the Christmas slate, which was great.
Yeah.
Cam Akers, he's good.
He is very good. That was a big game. 37 or something? He just went off and crushed. Higbee had a big game as well. So Higbee surprisingly was the tight end 4 on the entire weekend.
Luckily for me, none of the quarterbacks actually went off. Like, even if you didn't have Baker, who I think had the best game of the 6 games, like, no one had Baker for one thing. It's not like he outscored everyone by 20 points. He outscored everyone by, like, 4 points.
Right.
So I had, like, Rodgers and Brady. I only had 2 lineups. They were the captains of the lineups, and those, like, overwhelming stacks. But, like, having Brady and not having Baker wasn't that big. For first place, it probably would have been.
Aaron Rodgers was in the winning lineup, right? And it was with Aaron Rodgers, but then it had Higbee and Akers, right?
Probably Rams D somehow.
Yeah, I think it had like Lazard or something. Yeah, it had like the 3 Rams. We looked at it on RPS just to check it out, and I think it was like that. But that was the point. Even as much as people complained about Aaron Rodgers not coming through, he still ended up being on the winner. So it's just the way it shakes out on some of those shorter slates.
The thing that I think you need to look at the next 2 weeks, and I'm going to use runthesims.com because I always do. Runthesims.com/Mayo to get yourself 10% off. Projections, very important for me this week, especially on Sunday morning once we know the active and inactive news. Next week, if you have a projection provider that you trust for week 18, that could be a print fest if it's right.
Yeah. Definitely. It goes back. You talked about Run the Sims is definitely a spot to look at because it's going to shake out everything to get that. And we joke about it, but the XFL, the preseason type feel, what's done well at that? Run the Sims with Justin Stuff over there. So I think that's definitely a spot to check out. You talked about it, promo code Mayo. It's a good spot to use. And next week, even more so when there's going to be a lot of who? Who is that? Is that a real guy? Is this a creative player? What? You got to have stuff like that. So
what was the Bills running back either last year or the year before week 18? Do you remember this guy? He scored like 3 touchdowns, Paul. It may have been Avery Williams. It was something Williams.
Yeah, a creative player. I forget his name now. I'm the worst for memory with that stuff, but there's a lot of guys. Even like last night with Tennessee. They played Dobbs, which was surprising over Malik Willis.
Racy
McMath is getting a 39-yard bomb. Julius Chestnut, Joey's long-lost cousin from the hot dog eating contest, was in there. There's a lot of different stuff going on in these games that if you don't have something, like you mentioned, you're probably going to be behind. So now would be the time to get it, and then you can apply it to other sports and things upcoming too. So
yeah, we got F1, NASCAR. I think MMA is going to be dropping soon in terms of projections and lineup builders up there. So yeah. runthesims.com/Mayo. Optimal lineup for the main slate as it's projected right now. Gardner Minshew is the quarterback, although Hurts has the potential to start. I don't think that he's going to play, but as of right now, it's Minshew, Etienne, and Ramondre Stevenson, Garrett Wilson, Christian Watson, who has a hip injury, so you have to keep an eye on him, Jacoby Myers, Tyler Conklin, Christian McCaffrey in the flex, and 49ers D. Don't like that lineup.
Who was the 2 running backs again?
Ramondre and Etienne.
Etienne, of course. Okay, that's what I thought you said it first. I heard Ramondre, but okay. Yeah, I don't personally love it. Like you said, I mean, the best ball bros are out there, fingers crossed for this situation with Hurts. That's what got them all to the finals, so they're hoping that that's true. Sirianni might be just leading them on. We'll wait and see. But when you've got a chance to keep it close to the chest or vest, if you will, where you've got a quarterback situation like that you can just keep it tight, I don't blame him for keeping it a secret till the end. We'll wait and see what happens. And Hurts definitely is built differently. The interesting thing, though, Pat, I think, and we'll talk about it when we get into the running backs and stuff, is like if he played somehow, do you really think they want to jam him 3 times at the goal line again? Probably not.
Yeah, it's sort of like the Fields thing this week where he's getting progressively more and more banged up as the weeks go along, but they really want him to get that all-time rushing record, so they're going to let him run. The Bills I was dead right. That's why I lost all my money last week because I went all in on Justin Fields, and he was dog shit. But the Bills really did. I mean, I don't know if they showed a game plan of how to stop Justin Fields, but as I told Paul, we were talking about the game afterwards, it seemed like all week they just practiced we'll just take away Justin Field designed runs. We won't even practice anything else. Yeah. If they can't do that, they can't beat us.
It seems pretty good. Seems like a solid plan when you've got guys like Pettis and Pringle and others that are out there that you're going to have to find a way for them to make it work. So, I mean, I don't hate the game plan. In general, I remember the line. I think it was Justin Fields is going to win me a lot of money this week. And then you told me you got zero back on the slate. So, yeah, that's the way things go. But you got it back on Christmas, so it's okay.
Yeah, I'm still living off a few weeks ago.
Yes.
Cash most of that. As people know, when I get the big win, I always immediately cash out.
Yeah.
The first time I hit a big win, I did not immediately cash out. It took me $5,000 later. What am I doing here? I'm just losing all this money back immediately.
You never want to have the ability to click that drop down on the 22 just to check it out and be I can enter that.
Yeah, I'll play in 5 $200 single entries. I'll do well in one of them. No, not happening.
Yeah.
Probably the key is not playing the same lineup in all of the single entries, as I found out. So I think you can tweak this optimal lineup and not make it all that bad. I don't trust Tyler Conklin at all, although Mike White is back this week. And it also has Garrett Wilson in it because they're both good values. If you just swapped out Gardner Minshew for Mike White, and if you didn't like ETN because you don't know about the Jags game plan, subbed in Ken Walker, I think that fits. And then all of a sudden this lineup looks a lot better.
Yeah, one thing we never did on this show, because we've switched to this format, I get all the messages, people love it, all of that.
Wait till golf when we try to do this.
Oh, I think when we switch, someone already asked me that. Are you guys going to do the golf show how you used to do, or are you going to do it kind of like what you switched to in NFL?
I would prefer to do it this way.
Yeah, I think this is a good way, and we're going to see a lot of stuff with that that's going to be interesting for folks out there listening and watching for the game theory side of it. And this skips the 6K range entirely, and everyone's playing this value play, and we can just do this. And looking at, I think it's going to be a really good show, a feature show, of course.
Well, it'll be good, too, because I think we can incorporate from your guys' show Kenny's cash game cornerstones.
Yeah.
We could even start with that. It's a bit of cross promotion of the show.
Yes.
Get Kenny's 4 guys in there and be like, how do we build off of this?
Against that.
How do we take one of these guys out and sub it to this guy to make it a GPP lineup kind of thing?
Yeah. So remind me just the last spots, what I was going to say, because we're going to get to this in a second. You know how we've always been doing the projections lately and saying, okay, this one's 5 better, or what we like about that. So after Minshew, Stevenson, ETN, Garrett Wilson, what was the other ones?
Christian Watson.
Okay, and again, we know there's injuries, guys, that can happen and stuff, but we'll put it in for now. Watson.
Jacoby Myers.
Tyler
Tyler Conklin. Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
Niners D. My projection has it 148.95.
Wow, that's a big projection.
With 121% combined ownership.
I know mine won't have that, but I can just say as far as what I've seen, this definitely projects the best of some of the stuff I looked at last night, this morning in preparation for the show. It's right there. Again, my stuff is projecting differently, but not the same number as you, but it's the highest that I have. It's at 126. Again,
we have optimistic projections, apparently.
More adjusted as well, exactly. So just keep that in mind.
In fairness, I have my projection set to the 80th percentile, not the median projection. Yes. Because I'm playing GPPs. I want upside baked into my projections.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, mine is definitely more median. So if you look at this, Pat, one of the first things I look at, and then we'll get to messing around with it, but when you have Wilson and Conklin, I know you also have Ramondre and Jacoby. But if you wanted to split that up with Minshew, you could go to, what's your thoughts on Mike White this week? We got him coming back.
That's what I'm saying. You could play Mike White and Ken Walker instead of ETN, and then you have a game stack.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at now, is if I take him out, who is the...
It probably projects way worse, because I think the projections like Minshew a lot.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good spot. A team you can't really run on, a team you can pass all over, and Minshew looked pretty capable against. And that's one of the outdoor games. If we had talked about this briefly last week, but are you targeting indoor versus outdoor with all of the weather? If you just used all the guys from the indoor games, you fucking crushed last week.
Last week that was a print fest. You could do whatever you wanted to, even if it didn't fully work out. But the Daniel Jones side, we liked Hodgins. You could have him, Hodgins, Richie James.
And then just the Eagles-Cowboys game.
Run it back with Jefferson and Hawkinson. Do what we always talk about on the show, where you use up your 3 wide receiver spots on just that game, and then you could almost fit, I know McCaffrey didn't come through, but you could fit one of McCaffrey Henry. You could fit up a pretty good other spot, any defense you wanted, and then make it all work. And you had a great lineup last week. So that was something to keep in touch with. And then this week, obviously, we've got a similar setup with Detroit, Chicago. I think that total is at least 5, if not 6 points higher than some of the other ones in some cases. So maybe only 4 now if Green Bay, Minnesota came up some, but just a note where that game is looking pretty good.
Yeah, and remember, Green Bay, Minnesota is in Green Bay.
Right.
I'm sure it's not going to be pleasant outdoors there. And I don't know, I don't, maybe the Minnesota side of that game, I just don't have a ton of interest in the Green Bay side of that game. Unless Aaron Jones sits, then A.J. Dillon becomes a super play.
Yeah.
But I think that Jones is going to play, and then it just mucks everything up. It's a lot like they're like the shitty version of Kansas City, because Rodgers doesn't really throw for any touchdowns, but he can throw to anyone. There's like 8 guys he could throw to.
Definitely a huge challenge with it. Same thing why I always keep going back to the Mahomes situation. It's the same thing there in that sense. Now, like you said, if we have Watson out, if we have Jones out, I don't even know if we will, like you said, but just the way it's setting up, then things tighten up a little bit, where at least then you can go to the same situation of what we did last week with the Giants, where you just knew it was those 3 or 4 guys that you just had to mix and match with. Here, very similar, but I don't know fully if people are going to completely chase Hawkinson as well to the fullest extent.
That's probably a good idea not to chase Hawkinson. Like, the guy has 2 40-point games this year, and he's like been kind of crappy in all the other ones.
Yeah, I guess since he's got there, though, that's the only thing I will say is that,
good baseline.
16-9, 8, 6, 6, 9, 10. Like, this is the thing. What we always say, too, am I expecting 39 from Hawkinson this week? Absolutely not. But can he get you 20 and still crush at that position? If, again, look at the position. It all comes down to it's a onesie position. You have to figure it out. It makes sense to stack in with your quarterbacks in most cases. But if you do look at it from the perspective of Kelsey's very expensive. Kittle, we have to wait and monitor the Debo situation, because if his production has been a product of Debo out.
They would be crazy to bring Debo back this week. You want to give him some run next week? I understand that, to get him ready for the playoffs. But, you need this guy in the playoffs.
But I think that's an important injury to monitor because of that. It really, to me, it would erase Kittle from the pool.
I don't think Debo's playing, for what it's worth.
That's good to be on top of. I'm saying that's the difference at 5,900. But again, you got to look at what's below him. You've got 5,400 is pretty cheap considering 8,100 for Kelsey in this spot. Mm-hmm. You need the savings.
Top 5 plays of the week per Run the Sims, and just how often they appear in the optimal lineup. You want to give a guess at the top 5? I already told you one of them. He's number 4. Ramondre's number 1.
Yeah. ETN?
ETN's number 6.
Oh, he's just outside. Garrett Wilson's
number 7.
Jeez, I'm just missing up top. Who's up there, Pat? McCaffrey?
McCaffrey's number 2.
Yeah. Barkley?
No. Barkley's number 11. It's Keenan Allen, number 3. Chris Godwin, number 4. And Travis Kelce, number 5.
Yeah, see how bad my memory is? You told me Godwin.
I told you Godwin a minute before the show
started. Yes, that's perfect.
But he has the best optimal rate, which means projected ownership, optimal rate minus ownership. His is off the charts because apparently no one is using Chris Godwin this week.
And no one's using Keenan Allen, at least from what I can tell. So that's another interesting one, too.
I have him at 13%.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that. I don't see people going to him very much because there's just so many options and so many games across the board.
He's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
$7,000.
I mean, I don't know what you're seeing, but obviously people are going to be playing Amon-Ra in that game, the total, everything we talked about with it.
He's number 8 for what it's worth.
Yeah, people like Garrett Wilson. Now that we have Mike White back, probably a good reason. It's a good play. It makes sense to me. I'm not sure. What does he show up optimal versus ownership? Like, how's he looking from a leverage perspective?
Garrett Wilson has a minus 2% optimal rate. 17 projected ownership, 15% optimal rate. I think he's a great play, though.
That's what I have him about at, too, so I would agree there. Okay. And then just going down the board, I mean, some of the other guys. Then it really does start to level out this week, though, when you have this many games on the board. And again, we'll have injuries and stuff that play into it. But I think at both wide receiver and running back, quarterback always levels out. But even at running back, you just don't see much outside of like Ramondre, CMC, and ETN, who we mentioned. Maybe then it's Barkley. But after that, the stuff sort of balances out from there. A lot of guys in the 5K, 6K range.
Yeah, it's like the Tyler Algiers of the world at 5,300. He's getting some ownership.
I was going to say, he might be the most popular value guy. I can see that. Like,
his optimal rate, not strong, versus like his leverage rate. He's 11% owned. He appears in the optimal 3% of the time.
Do you have Drake London's? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I mean, I have it.
I meant like, where's he at?
He has a minus 2% leverage rate, 11% ownership, 8% optimal rate.
More optimal than Algier, though.
Oh yeah, way more. Yeah.
So that's the interesting part, and this is one I never quite understand. Again, obviously Desmond Ritter's there, and you can do whatever you wanted with that information. But when you see like Algier getting some ownership, 15 to 20% range. you see London getting some ownership in an upper range as a cheaper guy and getting all those targets lately, especially since Ritter's been at the helm. It's like, what are people really just playing those two together, or is one of those ownership projections really wrong?
Probably one of them is really wrong.
That's what the season's been like. So that's
or for the people that aren't using Drake London, like if they're using Drake London in a line, it might depend on how much money you need, to be perfectly honest with you, because how much is London? London is 4,900. So if you had a bit more money, the guess for me would be you would use Algier at 53. If you didn't have that money, maybe you'd want to use London. Like they're two of the better value, just below mid-range value guys this week. Like Garrett Wilson's now 55. And for weeks, it was like Zay Jones. Like Zay Jones was just 47 and 49. It's like, oh, if I need to have some savings, I'll just automatically use this guy. It feels like those two are the one-offs from those games that people are kind of interchanging between based on how much money they have left.
I agree. My thoughts would be quite simple, is that Garrett Wilson's only $600 more.
Use him.
So people are going to go to him, I think, and people also will need, again, when we get to it, we can make up stories for a lot of these guys at wide receiver value plays, but there is much less value there, I think, than having these 5K guys at the running back position, where I definitely agreed with you that Algier would be the top of the list for people looking for a cheaper value running back that they trust. So I think Algier's ownership would be more closer to accurate, making your leverage spot really good to just fade him because of that. And I think you would see less usage of what ownership projections think of Drake London right now, because they'll already have Garrett Wilson's and guys like that around him, and they probably have Algier or nobody.
I do have a question, and I don't quite understand this. Maybe the ownership projections are just off. Why is Algier at $5,300 projected to be higher owned than Brian Robinson, who's $5,200 in like the best matchup of the week with a banged up Antonio Gibson?
The Washington offense is not good. I think maybe that's why. I don't know. Atlanta's not that good either, but I guess it's just, again, what have you done for me lately?
I don't know, man. This is a guy who's going to carry the ball 20 times.
Yeah.
Against Cleveland.
What's his optimal percentage showing up at? Because, again, it's just all it is the game log watchers. That's why.
His optimal rate is it's higher than Algier's. It's 4.2%. But his ownership is only 9%. He has a bad leverage score, but he rates out he's lesser owned than Algier. And his optimal rate is higher than Algier, and he's cheaper.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Again, like I said, the matchup got better, and what did people expect? I mean, this is the thing. People will game log watch and see the last 2 or 3 scores from Robinson, bad. The last couple scores from Algier, good. Oh, Algier's taking it over. I get that, and I'll use some of this week in game stacks or mini stacks and things along those lines. But when you look last week, 22 attempts for Brian Robinson, and what do you expect out of it? He's playing San Francisco. It's not going to go very well, but when you know the other guy's out and he's going to be in, I definitely don't hate that. I think it's a way that you can get a little bit different. It's also $100 cheaper, just an added note. But yeah, I don't hate it at $5,200 this week.
I would almost prefer Gibson not be out, because if he's out, everyone's just going to go to Brian Robinson, because that only makes a lot. Like he becomes one of the better plays on the slate, I think. At $5,200 for a running back,
yeah,
that's going to have 90% of the workload. At least if Gibson is like limited. I know he didn't practice on Thursday. We don't know about Friday yet, but all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, no, with Gibson is in, it's going to be a 60-40 split. It probably won't be, because the guy's hurt anyway. Yeah. But at least it gives you a bit of cover there.
The thing, like you said, is just the Robinson attempts too. Like just tying it in with that has been pretty incredible. I mean,
every week, it's just
22, 21, 18, 15, 26 with a 12 in there. Like those are all pretty solid. So yeah, I don't hate that at all.
And maybe, I mean, if Gibson is limited or banged up, maybe you see an uptick in the receiving game. At least maybe he'll be on the field for those snaps.
Yeah, and he's been getting 1-1-2-2 target. Like he's not getting a lot of targets, so I wouldn't add that into your mix. But that's the bonus. That's the gravy on top, if you will. If you can get that, even better.
So the other one I wanted to look at in terms of cheap running backs was Jamal Williams at $5,000.
Yeah.
That this screams a ton of sense here. It's good flop leg because they couldn't use him last week because they were down in the game. But every time they got near the goal line, they gave one to Justin Jackson, I think. But, we're near the goal line. Didn't happen a ton, and they had to throw a ton, which meant a lot of DeAndre Swift. But every time that they ran near the goal line, it was still with Jamal Williams. Now they're 6-point favorites, terrible defense. This screams like the 3-touchdown game. And now he's $5,000, not $6,500.
Yeah, he's going to go into a lot of our lineups, I think, this week, because anything we're not doing with the Goff stack, why are you not taking a piece of this guy as a 6-point favorite at home? They should be able to move it against Chicago. It's already a great matchup on the ground. All of these factors. And again, you could try and make Swift work again if you want. He's $300 more.
Why are people trying to make Swift work?
I only try and make him work in game stacks because I think that's how it works. It's either he sets off the tone and it goes that way or else not. But definitely like it. What's the injury situation on Williams right now? Still Q-tag? He's going to play, I assume.
I don't even see a Q-tag on him anymore.
Okay, should be good then. That's what I was wondering. I didn't check the latest, but usually do that Friday after, once we get the final updates. But what I was going to say, too, is there's actually a little prop. We never talked this stuff, but I saw someone post it last night. It worked for Zeke. First touchdown. So Dallas scores the first touchdown in games a lot more than most. And when they do, Zeke was the number attached to it. It was like 9 and 5. I forget. Apologize to whoever posted it. It was great information. If I find it, I'll put it in the tidbits or retweet it out. But it was just interesting. But the next best version of the Zeke first touchdown last night was Jamal Williams in this spot. And they're at home. And it literally lined up perfectly. So I was just looking for the first touchdown bet on Jamal Williams. And it's plus 600 for the first touchdown. So I like that quite a bit. I'm just going to do it and try it. So just a quick note, but I like him. And the reason, like I said, Pat, we'll put him in a lot of lineups is because we talk about this all the time. If you're not going to play that game stack and you're going to go completely away from it from a stacking perspective, which we will. If you're playing any type of multi-entry, you're probably not just jamming that game all in. Mind you, to your point, last week it could have worked with Minnesota New York Giants. Here, though, I think you're going to want a piece of it. And why not go to the guy like him who would definitely leverage Jared Goff as what looks like the highest owned quarterback on the slate.
The top, outside of Barkley last week, the top end running backs failed by and large. Mm-hmm. Is there a top end running back this week that you actually do like?
Yeah, the guy that failed last week. His name's Christian McCaffrey.
Nine grand's a lot.
That's perfect. The best part is,
not only $9,000, 26% ownership too.
Yeah, that's too light for how what he does on this slate. It's him. Who is it? Him, Jefferson,
I would put Ramondre into that. If Harris is out against Miami.
Yeah, he goes up in there, but I'm just saying, like, there's like 4 or 5 guys on this slate max that I think that can pop 40 plus, and he's definitely one of them. So if you're not including him in your tournament lineups, I think it's a mistake even at that ownership. And the best part is, I think the ownership will just see how it goes, but it probably tweaks and tweaks as the week goes on because he's more money than last week after busting. So he went up in price. Last week, what was he? 8,900, 8,800?
Yeah.
It looked better. Last week was Best Buy pricing. This week, no, he's the premium model, so you're going to have to pay up 9,000. I don't mind that. It does go the same, I will say this, with Jefferson at 9,500 for a receiver. That's a lot, but he's a receiver that has a floor of like 20 and goes up from there. So it's
but he's entering like Cooper Kupp territory right now, though, right?
Yeah, he is. Let me ask you this. Actually, that's a good line you just said, so I want to clarify. What are you calling Cooper Kupp territory?
Well, with the first few weeks of the year, like I think Cooper Kupp averaged for the first few weeks of the year until he got hurt something like 28 DraftKings points a week.
Yes.
Yet he never showed up in any of the winning lineups.
So we're syncing up here as the season goes on. It's perfect. That's what I thought you were going to say, where he's like almost like he's just going to crush.
No, but he's up at that price now where Kupp was. It's like
he might get you 35 and not be needed.
Yeah.
That's exactly true. That's what I was going to bring up. Now, at running back, because again, we do have all these other options, but remember, we're making cases for a lot of these other options. The only real case against McCaffrey is the failure last week. I mean, there's even, I think, a potential that Jordan Mason is out this week behind him. So it's like there's even less.
Tyrion David Price.
Yeah, you could roll with him, TDP, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see, man. I just think it's a good spot to go back to here. He's not my favorite play on the slate or something, but I definitely think you'd want exposure to him in your tournaments.
I have to ask, for almost $2,000 cheaper, and I don't know what the price difference in terms of like points per dollar and how this really works out, but doesn't James Conner just do everything McCaffrey does at the moment?
He does, but again, I'll look it up to see, but I think it's, again, you're looking for.
I feel like upside wise,
nowhere near the ceiling from overall. He's 25 max all season long.
Really? He's only 25. I guess they don't score that many.
And it's like the 4 times that he did it versus McCaffrey's. Last week was a bust at 14, but you go 29, 32, 29. You go through the season 40 before he got traded, 23, 25, 24, and he was in the worst spot for that in the setup that he was in there. Like, again, these are just different types of numbers. So I'm just saying, I'll go back. I'm playing 2 things about James Conner. 1, I'm definitely playing him. 2, the opposite side of Algier. And again, you pay for it. You pay almost $2,000 more, but that's, what's his ownership? It's going to be very similar.
Yeah, I have James Conner at 18. I have him as the third
I think there's similar
owned.
ownerships, but it changes your build, and you're going to the side that should be better. Like that's an exact example where you could do something like that. So I'll definitely have interest in him as well. We'll see how the ownership shakes out as the week goes on, but he looks good at 7,200 as of right now.
If I want to talk myself into a low-owned guy right now, projections don't like him. I don't think anyone likes him because he has 3% ownership. Why not David Montgomery?
Ugh.
We just watched Chuba Hubbard and Donta Foreman eat these idiots up.
Yeah.
And Montgomery continues to produce, albeit on a very small scale. But this is a fantastic matchup with a high game total. He is the player in this game that no one is using.
Yes, and that does make sense too from that perspective. The one thing you brought up is just how they couldn't do anything on the ground against Carolina last week. That was embarrassing for Detroit. They were literally looking around at each other like, who is going to play defense? They're like, you are on defense. You play it. Like, they're looking at each other. It's your job too. And that's what the battle was that they were having. And it was just incredible, the numbers these guys had on them on the ground. So it would make sense from that perspective. The other thing, you did bring it up earlier to chime in and just tie it together, was with the Justin Fields stuff. And we talked about it with the Hurts, if he somehow did come back and play. Like, don't they want to kind of protect these guys a little bit? I don't know as much for Chicago, obviously, as much as Philly would, but just in general, you could run it more with a guy like Montgomery and get there.
Do you trust the Jags to play all their guys?
They say they're going to.
I do, weirdly enough.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't play into that. Last night, that was a big, I almost had a huge night in Showdown because of that, because everyone, they're going to sit them at the half. There's no way Dallas is going to be needed. That's just not how these teams are built. They're just going to go out. First of all, they have to get there to be able to sit guys. So put it this way, if the Jags sit their guys, aren't they already up pretty good now? I guess the only difference here would be the Jags are in the same situation as Tennessee was in last night, right? It's the last game that matters.
For all of the speculation about the Jags could still technically clinch a wild card spot even if they lose to Tennessee next week, that is true. It's like 0.6%. Likelihood of happening. I wouldn't be gaming for that.
I would lean with you. I don't like to play those scenarios as much anyway. I think it's like when people try and build for a blowout in NBA and all these other sports that people play, and they try and do different situations. I'm going to use this guy in my golf lineup because this other guy sucks on Sunday, so even if he makes the cut, he's going to suck on Sunday. Like, these are dumb.
Get him to Sunday.
Yeah, you want the guy that can play on Sunday. It's the same thing here. You want the guys you think are going to be in the game. If you think they're going to sit, you could skip it, but I'm going to play it as if they're playing. And I think there's potential here, Pat, too. I'm not sure if we'll get to it when we're building, but in the pass attack, while leaving ETN out, because as we've discovered on this show, some weeks on opposite sides of this theory, but ETN does not catch passes. He's not.
He does not. No,
he's not a pass catching back. So if you are going to leverage him this week in the best running back matchup in football, I should say, you've got a spot here where you can go to Lawrence, Kirk, Zay Jones, Ingram, done. Use two of them. Be done with it. You've got your stack.
Let's talk. We'll get to receivers as a part of the stacks. And the $5,000 range is very interesting here. You even have your you have your Zach Moss at $5,400. But even above that, Jarek is $6,000. Cam Akers is $6,100. Kenneth Walker is $6,200. Those are pretty good prices for all of those guys.
Yeah, I personally...
No one's using Cam Akers either, coming off 38 points against... yes, the Chargers defense has been a lot better. But all they're going to do is try and run.
One thing I didn't look up was how much pass catching work did he get last week?
I'm
pulling it now just to see.
I didn't look at that either.
49 of the 65 snaps. He got 23 attempts. He did get 2 targets still as well. I just wondered because
I feel like they didn't have to. The only time they passed to Higbee. That was it.
Yeah, they didn't get a lot of that, but that's the only reason I asked that, and that's why I wonder for this. I'm definitely not playing Baker, but if I believe Bosa got activated for the Chargers.
Oh, good. So we can get hurt.
Well, he comes back again. That's a lot of pressure coming at you. The checkdowns could be even more in there. And so, again, Higbee's another guy. I don't think it's as much chasing as if you got the Chargers coming at you. I think there's definite... Look, the guy just catches the ball and falls on it. But if they're 8 yards apiece and he's getting 8 of those, they add up. And then if he gets one in the end zone or whatever could happen, I definitely think it's a possibility. But back to your play here. One more guy you didn't mention that I will just bring up. I just have a feeling it's going to happen one of these weeks. And why not this week? Yeah.
I play it every week and it doesn't happen.
No.
When I could have just been playing Jarek and printing money.
Yeah, that might be over though. Look, everyone thought
I've said that for the past 3 weeks.
Everyone thought they got there last week and he got his 12. That ain't enough. You need more than that. Pacheco is going to have a week here, so I don't know. I don't love him, but I just thought I'd bring that up when you were mentioning Moss and guys like that. And he's also a little bit of a pivot there, considering he's squeezed between, Fournette, A.J. Dillon if it becomes a thing, Algier down below, all of that where you could get to him. So not my favorite, but just one I would definitely bring up here. And again, what's the Kansas City team total? It's got to be decent.
Very high.
Yeah, so how do you get access to those points? Because, I'm not playing Mahomes.
Defenses.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anyone at the bottom that we can just fill lineups with?
I would consider those guys, close enough to the bottom. I don't see anything way down. I think people will play New Orleans again if they go, in the sense that if it's going to be Minshew, they'll just do it because Minshew chucks.
Panthers?
Who?
Panthers at 24 against the Bucks. Brady just keeps throwing picks.
Yeah, it's possible.
J.C. Horn probably not going to play, but that does suck for this. But I mean, I don't think that's terrible. Houston against the Jags.
Of note, when we get to Detroit, Chark got Horn early in the game, and then Horn got injured, and Chark had the game. But I still am, bitter about that one.
Every time I go against Chark, he has 100 yards. Every time I believe he's going to do something, he has 1 yard.
I think whatever side you go on, he just gets almost 100. He has 98, 94. He has a bunch of games where he didn't get the bonus. But yeah, we'll talk about him when we stack that game up. But yeah, what about the Patriots?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Patriots are the default answer down here at $2,600.
I think San Francisco is, though, right? I think everyone's playing San Francisco at $2,900.
Yeah. I mean, when I look at the ownership, San Francisco 15%, New England 12%.
What is it, Stidham?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the only thing I will say about that, and again, I don't know how high they'll get. Do you think San Francisco, if they are the D this week, gets to 40% or something stupid?
I could see it.
I mean, if they were held in check at like 15,
they'd be a great play.
I think that's great. I don't want to put like an obligatory number like, if it's 16 you can't do. I'm not saying that.
No, are they going to be owned by half the field
if
or
they're going
not?
to be 40%, I have a problem. The only reason I say I like it a little bit more than some of these other situations is, don't you think Vegas wants to do something with Stidham? Like, let's let them try and let's get Devontae Adams involved. Let's try and make these things happen.
I don't know if they know what they want to do.
That's what I'm wondering. But you cannot run on San Francisco, man. We just saw it. We talked about it. 22 attempts. Robinson is capable, does not go anywhere with 22 attempts. So if in this situation, is Jacobs going to have a big spot here? Like, Jacobs was interviewed after the game last week like he's packing up shop and heading out. Like, he's not looking very happy to be in the situation he's in. They've now benched their quarterback. They've got a lot going on. So I definitely could see a spot here where San Fran just pounds them. And maybe you do with if McCaffrey's too high ownership for you, you could plug in, just double down on the ownership and take both the highest own in McCaffrey and San Fran and get different elsewhere within your lineup. But then I also kind of like Ramondre with New England if you did want to pair up the running back DST. You don't have to do it. I'm just saying.
If it wasn't going to be those two, because I think those two are the very obvious choices here. Yeah. I do have one more I really like.
Same here, but who's yours?
Cardinals at 3,000.
They're fine. Probably. I would go down, actually. What about Tampa Bay just versus Carolina?
I mean, I like that as well. I would prefer to play Arizona.
Okay. I got one I just found that was cheap now.
Jets?
Nope. $2,300. Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
Especially if it becomes, I don't always pair these up, but if you wanted to, you could. I'm just saying, like, if Dylan became a thing with them, by all means, go ahead. But you don't need to. But this is a game that has a decent total. If you're not going to get, your Jeffersons, your Hawkinsons in there, it's not prime time, but it's different time slot than starting slot time. So it is still Kirk Cousins, guys. Remember, he's going into Lambeau, not necessarily the best place to walk into. So I think there's definitely a possibility here to use the Green Bay D at 2,300. And it would be pretty enticing if, Jones was somehow out, or even you just want to, like, man, I don't know about you, but Dylan, we didn't talk a lot about it, so I'm going two places here, but just back to it. Were you watching last week with that game? Like, they were not playing Aaron Jones.
Well, he hurt his ankle at the end of the first half.
They showed that.
But they didn't take him out. They were like, oh, no, we'll use you for like 2 carries.
Yeah, and as they were putting Dylan in and starting to get even more run after he'd already started off getting a bunch of the run, they're like, someone finally shows the picture on Twitter. It's like, oh, there's Dylan starting the run and Aaron Jones in the background on a cart behind the end zone. I'm like, well, that does make more sense now, but I just felt like Dylan was getting the work anyway. And later in the season, it's colder. You've probably seen the size of that guy's Quadzilla over there. He's just dominant when it comes to that stuff. And at home in Green Bay, I definitely think it's a spot where you could just use him either way.
Where would you like to start with the stacking this week? Well, what quarterback do you want to build around?
I think we have to start with the inside game, the
goof
total. Yeah, why not?
Goof stacks?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And they build themselves a little bit, and
they
start themselves, I should say. Where we're going to start.
Let's see if I can get to where you're going here. Is there a bring back from the Chicago side? I assume it's Montgomery.
That's actually more interesting now.
You want Pettis, Pringle,
I want Kmet, but
okay. The best of man Kmet.
The only reason I'll say it, we didn't talk a lot about tight end because it will tie into a lot of our stack building here. But honestly, if you look at the position, I guess we can spend 2 minutes on it. Like, Kelsey's up top. Kittle, we already talked a little bit about. Kelsey's expensive. And in relative, to the slate, when you've got all those running backs up, maybe you could get to him if you got all these 5K running backs, but you still have the guys up top in Barkley, McCaffrey, Connor, the ones we mentioned, Ramondre, all those. And then you move over to wide receiver, and you have some good plays up there with Jefferson and guys down from there. If you want to go there, I don't know if you can get to Kelsey very easily.
Do you have a preference? Like, is there a paid down tight end that you like?
The Conklin one at least made sense. One thing I would say about that, though, is the flip side of it. I think you could build like a Mike White, Garrett Wilson, Fant.
Well, Fant was the one I was looking at. Will Disley out for the year,
Yes.
placed on injured reserve. Lord knows if Lockett's going to play. I don't know if Marquise Goodwin's going to. Poor Marquise Goodwin. He broke his wrist diving for a ball.
Yeah,
in,
he screwed so many. We had good lineups.
I
last
know.
week,
He
too, by the
screwed
way,
me at 0 points.
with him in there.
But
So,
like
God,
you
that
could
sucked.
see it. He dove, like he came in with the wrist injury. He dove for the ball and like landed on the wrist.
Yeah.
He was just gone. He tried to come back. They threw it to him and he couldn't close his hand on the ball.
It was definitely a
bad
tough
news.
scene.
Bad news.
The one thing I would say, though, is, again, if you didn't want, you don't have to double stack Mike White. I probably would, but I'm just saying if you didn't want to,
Wilson then Fant. Yeah.
you could do that. And
But
you
you know
gotta
what?
remember,
Just not double stacking Mike White might not be the craziest thing in the world.
well, just because I think then you can just plug in other values where, yes, if the other, I mean, instead of having to choose between Elijah Moore and Corey Davis, for
Yeah.
example, and just hope you get it right, you could also just not mess up your lineup, build it a little more balanced. And if one of those guys gets 12 or 13, would it have helped with Mike White? Yes, but was it needed because you'd still get the touchdown attached if that's what it was from, so on and so forth. So just to bring that up, I thought that was interesting. But yeah, Fant seems good. And also don't forget Metcalf. I'm not saying Sauce can shut him down completely. It's Metcalf. He can do what he wants. I know Lockett's back, things like that. But man,
Is Lockett back for sure?
not for sure,
The
but I'm
dude
saying
has a broken finger. You
It's-
have a guy with a broken wrist, a guy with a broken finger, and then Sauce Gardner on DK. Fant seems like the very logical choice
it's
here.
definitely not for sure, but that's why I brought it up, is I think you could get a good little build there with that. We can go there next, maybe we'll check it out later. But
Well,
yeah,
the other one I wanted to point to, so Fant is 3,400. People are obviously going to like Conklin at 2,900. I don't like him as much because it could just be Uzama at the same time. Like we've seen that. Although Uzama seemed to be more of a Zach Wilson type guy rather than a Mike White type guy.
yeah, 2 targets, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's do it.
But Hunter Henry is probably going to play. He's 3,000 and probably no Jonnu Smith.
yeah, there's other options there too. Cade Otton finally got all the work last week.
He's 3,200.
Doesn't matter. He's 32. Logan Thomas with Wentz back.
Or just be smart and use fucking Evan Ingram at $4,400.
That's what I was
going to
gonna
score
say.
like 25 points.
The mid tier is much better, and even Njoku, I don't mind at 4,100. So I'm just saying that 4K range seems like the sweet spot if you're not going up to Hawkinson and those guys up top there. But I like your angle. Let's start with that. Let's go Goff, Amon-Ra, and then plug in Montgomery.
Okay, I had Komet. You want to do the Komet one first? Then
Yeah, we can do the
then we
Komet one
tweak
first.
It. So we have $5,500 per player after going Goff, Chark, Amon-Ra, and Komet.
I gotta sort this by price, make this easier. Okay.
So Connor and Drake London?
Who did you say? Did you put 4 guys into this?
No. Goff, Chark, St. Brown, and Komet.
Yeah, 4 guys, and I'm glad because I was saying I hope you put Chark in there. Yeah, let's do
Oh, yeah.
Chark. We're back to the well on Chark. Okay.
Yeah, so 1 catch
Good.
for 9 yards
No.
coming out for DJ Chark.
What is his actual numbers here? 108, 94, 98, 3 of his last 4.
108, 18, 94, 98, 16.
Yeah, there's some variance there,
A
Pat.
little bit of variance.
Yeah, we'll take it in this case. I think he's okay. I mean, I don't even know who else.
Well,
he
he's
goes to.
$4,300 and he's a guy who could go 6 for 100 with a touchdown. Like I get it.
Would you ever do Jared Goff, Jamal Williams, and Chark, and Amon-Ra, and hope that you're
It's just a blowout.
and hope that they just smash them? You don't even necessarily need the D as much as if it just, what if that's where the touchdowns come from? That is the 3 seemingly most like, I mean, of course, Zylstra, 3 touchdowns last week. Insane.
We chasing Zylstra?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Not doing that.
I don't know, man.
All right. I'm fine with this way. Let's set it up this way. We use up some spots.
You know who is, to go back to tight end just for 1 second. You know who is a name that I brought up last week and we both had a good chuckle about, and then he was like weirdly involved in the offense last week, was Tommy Tremble.
No, I remember
The
that,
Panthers
yes.
played more 2 tight end sets last week than at like any other point over the past 4 years.
Yeah, he's not in my player pool again this week, so.
Meaning he's $2,500. All I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you are desperate need of filling out your lineup, Tommy Tremble is $2,500. If you desperately need 2 catches for 8 yards, he is your man.
Yeah, I don't even have anybody else. Jelani Woods is 2,800, but I would wait on Kylan Granson, but the only reason I brought it up is because he's got the Hawkinson matchup from last week.
Yeah.
Jelani Woods does, I'm saying. And
but
he's
could it not be Mo Alleycocks?
maybe, but
mean, Nick
Jelani
Foles
Woods is a freak.
Also, Nick Foles can't throw. That's a problem.
That is a problem, definitely.
So back to this lineup.
Yeah.
So we have those 3, or those 4, with Komet into it. Where do we go now?
Ramondre, because we need a mid-tier guy.
Okay, I would say Ramondre, Connor, Drake London.
Let's try it. Connor.
Stevenson, Connor, Drake London.
And then I'm going to try and plug in that New England defense with Ramondre.
Okay, and I mean that saves us a bunch of money. I think that gets us up to Garrett Wilson if I had to guess.
It's more than that.
Is it?
Oh, it's $100 shy of ETN. God.
That means that if we're $100 shy of ETN, that means we're right at Ayuk, Ken Walker, Olave if he plays, McLaurin, Cam Akers. Like, they're all right around there. Christian Kirk, Jerick McKinnon.
Yeah, it's whoever you like the best out of those guys.
This is actually George Kittle. If Debo's out, double tight ends.
Kittle's 59. Yeah, we got the money. I don't know I don't have another defense to go to that I love.
I mean, you could pay. I mean, if you really wanted to do this, they're $2,600. We could use Niners D and Garrett Wilson. If you really like Niners D that much better.
Well, I just want to ask you this. What are your thoughts on Aaron Jones if he does play?
I never play Aaron Jones. Like, I have no real feel for anything that he's ever going to do. And as long as he doesn't burn me with one of his 4 touchdown games, I feel like I usually come out pretty well on the other side.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too. So I was just seeing.
Could you do? No,
know what I can do here though? Oh no, I can't actually. That doesn't work
not
either.
enough.
No, it doesn't work. So yeah, it'd have to be just pick a city. The one thing I will say is that as bad as I don't love this play, but the Ayuk spot would be huge leverage because
everyone's using McCaffrey. Everyone's using the defense,
and you've got
that is actually a build that I wanted to go out with if Debo sits. And we'll get to that. Is Purdy, Ayuk, Kittle?
Yeah, I love that build.
No one is using that build.
That's on my list, so we're good. We're both aligned.
So let's try to figure this out then. So do you want to go Patriots D? Like, I feel like I know that we have too much money left for Garrett Wilson. I just think objectively Garrett Wilson is one of the best plays on the slate. Like, I don't think he's that far. Like, with Mike White and him getting his 12 targets against the shit defense, like, he should be $7,000 on this slate. He's just underpriced.
Yeah.
So we throw him in, and for defense, we have $3,400 left if we want it.
Yeah, I just think you could also just throw him in, to your point. Like you said, just play him.
But you could go Commanders D against Cleveland at 31, Cardinals D, Niners D, Patriots D. It doesn't really matter, but
I found what I like.
Because, I mean, you said you'd want to use Ramondre with the Patriots D. I mean, I have Connor in this lineup. We could go Connor with the Cardinals D.
I found what I like, and it projects 5 points better.
What is it?
It's just taking out Chark and putting in Garrett Wilson.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then it lands you on Jamal Williams, and I get what I said. I'm just going to take all the Detroit touchdowns. It's Goff, it's Amon-Ra, it's Jamal Williams, it's a run back with Kmet. You've got Connor with London. You've got Ramondre with his defense, and you've got what you just said is possibly the best play on the slate in Garrett Wilson. And it rounds it out, and it's 124. If you remember, the original we had was 126. It's 2 points shy. Still has some ownership in there because some of these are good plays, but it's just way off the board. Like, who's stacking it this way? And you're still in good spots with guys that get volume and targets.
I like it.
It makes sense to me.
All right, let's.
It won't make sense to everybody because people don't stack Goff, Williams, Amon-Ra because they probably don't correlate in the sense that you know how it's going to work.
No, but you're banking on Detroit scoring 5-6 touchdowns.
If Goff throws 2
and Williams
to
rushes
Amon-Ra
for 2,
and
you're
Williams
good.
gets the bonus and a touchdown or a couple of goal line touchdowns, or maybe he gets thrown one by luck or chance because he's on the field when the pass rush hits. Who knows? But Detroit should score touchdowns. They're 6-point favorites at home and a 52-point total. And those are the guys that are part of the touchdowns on the field between Goff, Williams, and Amon-Ra. When Zylstra's not doing his job scoring 3 touchdowns, these are the guys that are part of scoring the touchdowns. So I got no problem with it. Also, Kmet is $100 more than Ingram.
Which is crazy.
Which is crazy, but also good when you're doing this stack to say, I can do this and get away with it. So
let's try this.
Let's take out Kmet, though.
Yeah, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to go...
I want to plug in Ingram because now you're going to leverage the ETN ownership. Even though Ingram's just as high owned, again, who knows how it will actually shake out because if both of those are that high owned, what does it look like?
So how about this core that we're talking about? It's just based off the last build that we did. Goff, St. Brown, Chark, Montgomery, Evan Ingram. And now we have $5,200. Garrett Wilson easily fits into here. I mean, you can... Listen, when we build these out, I'm not worried about the flex spot being in a late game for a late swap. We're just building them to build them at this point. But then you can go Patriots, Ramondre. You could go Cardinals, Connor, if you wanted to.
Funny enough, I think we land in the same spot, don't we, pretty much? It's like Akers.
I like Akers.
Or Jerick, if you trust him more and want a piece of that Kansas City offense.
Or is there any sort of like just cheap whatever, like who's the cheapest like besides Drake London? Like Jacoby Myers is $5,000. So use Myers instead of Ramondre in this spot. Let's see if that...
Do you like Njoku?
No.
Okay.
But...
The only reason I asked is like it's Ingram and someone like Akers, or it's Njoku and ETN?
How about... What's $7,200 get us? James Conner, actually. Okay,
Yeah,
how
so
about
what do
this?
you got here?
How about this? Goff, Amon-Ra, Chark with Montgomery.
Right.
Evan Ingram is the tight end. I like Brian Robinson a lot. So I plugged in Brian Robinson at $5,200. That allows me to use Commanders D at 31 with Garrett Wilson and James Conner.
Yeah, I like that. Commanders D with them.
Yeah.
How much are they?
$3,100.
So let me plug them.
And you get him against old noodle arm Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, he's been really bad, and it leaves you exactly 72 for the.
For
What I like too is, like I said, because Algier is, so you're doubling up in the sense that Algier is $100 more than Brian Robinson, right? So at most would have him in that spot. You've already went to Robinson, and now you're also going opposite to say I'm going to plug in James Conner, against him. It's 120, but it's pretty off the board, and it makes a lot of sense and could get even better if and when Gibson is ruled out. We'll wait and see what happens there, but it definitely makes sense from that perspective. It's extremely unique in comparison to the lineup we just built too, and only projects for 4 points less.
Where do you want to go next? You want to go to the Fields side of this? Like, I think we shouldn't overlook Fields in this game.
I have zero interest in Fields, but if
Really?
you want to build it, we could do it. I just think, what are you doing?
I don't know.
It's him, Komet.
Him and Komet.
I would stop there.
Could you go Fields, Komet, Jamal Williams?
We could do, yeah. You could.
Like if you
Let's try building it and see how bad it is.
All right.
That's the fun in some of these, and we can do them pretty quick if we just use some of the same guys.
Yeah,
right,
because
that
we're going to use
use.
Garrett Wilson. We're going to get to. I mean, you could probably. This is the lineup you can use Christian McCaffrey, and I'm guessing.
We'll see.
See, we'll go.
Remember, Justin Fields is very expensive, $7,900.
No,
not for what he's capable of and done. I understand where people are going to go with that, with the 40s, and the upside is legit. And he's going for records and things like that they're trying to set up here. But just of note, if you did it that way. So let's do those three. So Fields, Komet, Williams.
Then I plugged in McCaffrey and Niners D.
Okay.
And then I'll plug in Garrett Wilson and Drake London. And we have a wide receiver and a flex spot and $5,100 left. You could easily go Brian Robinson, Jacoby Myers.
Yeah. Let's do that then. Let's see what that looks like.
See, Robinson's going to hurt these because I assume he doesn't project very well.
But he can get better. So we just want to see, does he project close enough to get there where it can make sense later?
Because I know Wilson and Myers are going to project well.
Yeah, let me see Myers in there. And that leaves 5,000, right?
If you use Myers, it should leave you $5,300. So instead of Algier, you can use Brian Robinson.
Who did you use different than me? Because I have Fields, Komet, Williams, McCaffrey, San Francisco D, Myers, Garrett Wilson, and Brian Robinson.
I had Drake London in there as well.
Instead of...
I had Wilson, Drake London, Jacoby Myers, 1, 2, 3 as my receivers.
So who's your defense then? Patriots?
49ers.
I show 5K left with Fields, Komet, Williams,
Yeah.
the stack. Then I've got the secondary stack of McCaffrey, San Francisco D.
Mm-hmm.
Then I've got Garrett Wilson, Jacoby Myers, and Brian Robinson.
I had Brian Robinson. Yeah, who's your other receiver?
It leaves me 5,000 for a receiver. You're saying you have $5,300 Drake London in there. The only way I could do $5,300.
Drake London's $4,900.
Oh, okay. That's what I was trying to figure out here. My bad. So
Yeah.
I was thinking that you need it with 5,300. We were dropping down to the New England D. So that one projects for 120.
That's the same as the last one, isn't it?
Yeah. And somehow it's higher owned though because London, Wilson, Myers actually has some ownership.
Sure.
going
Well,
on.
it has McCaffrey in it. McCaffrey's
too.
going to be the high. McCaffrey and
Let's do
49ers
this.
D are going to be like the highest owned pairing.
The good news about that one though is it did leverage the Ramondre with Myers.
Yes.
But now let's flip it because now we stay with it. I just want to see what we can get the projection to if we
take McCaffrey out.
and the D and go to the other version we had, which was New England with Ramondre.
Well, that probably gets us up to a really good receiver at that point, would be my guess.
That's what I want to see.
Instead of Drake London, you can have
76.
someone good.
Not quite.
Let's see. Throw Fields back in there.
Is there a
McCaffrey, Niners, and we'll go Stevenson, Patriots D. And we take out Jacoby Myers as well, right?
Yep. So we take out Myers and London, and it leaves you about 6,250 for those final two spots if we leave Robinson in.
I mean, we don't need to leave Robinson in, obviously.
So let's do that. Let's take him out and go back to Ramondre and just set it up as the premium setup that we had. Which was Fields to Komet with Walt Williams. We get it. Ramondre with the New England D instead of McCaffrey with the 49ers D. Garrett Wilson, our good play. 5,900 left
Is there anyone on Seattle you want to use
per spot.
besides Fant?
That's the only issue.
Can we go Garrett Wilson, Ken Walker? You can run on the Jets.
Yeah, let's do that. I like trying that out because I also like that Walker's not really getting any ownership at all. And again, 26 attempts last week against Kansas City, I know, but he still got the 107 on the ground, got a couple of targets. He had 5 the week before that. I mean, he's definitely in play. And if you're using Wilson, let's look for a way to use someone that's not being used as much. He's at 6,200 when most are going to ETN for 64. So I do like that.
Really wish there was how do you feel about Isaiah Hodgins? Just as a random play.
I don't think I'm chasing that. I think we got the good game out of him. And
how do you feel about Curtis Samuel now that Wentz is back at quarterback?
I feel like he likes
Dotson.
Dotson's
right there. Because you could go, I keep mentioning like Chris Godwin pops, right?
Well, I was just going to plug him in. What does that land us on?
It gives you $4,700 left. So not enough for Drake London, but Dotson's 46. That leaves you like Donovan Peoples-Jones, Romeo Doubs, Paris Campbell, KJ Osborne, Claypool, who's out, Hodgins, Samuel, Dotson, DJ Chark is right there if you wanted to overload the other side of that game, I suppose.
Yeah. I kind of like what you had. I like it just like that. Now, it doesn't project very good because...
No. It has Jahan Dotson in it.
117, but yeah, that's why.
Well, what you could do, I suppose, that instead of if you don't need to play the Garrett Wilson, Ken Walker combo. You can, obviously. Or you could just drop down to, let's see here. How much is DJ Moore? He's 5,700. That's not going to work out. Who are the running backs just below Ken Walker? Ken Walker's $6,200. So you could have Cam.
We got Miles Sanders, A.J. Dillon, Leonard Fournette, Pacheco.
You could use Jerick McKinnon and get yourself up to Drake London, I think.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So it's
you could
Dotson and Kenneth Walker for McKinnon and London, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then you have $0 left on the table. I like the first version of this lineup better with McCaffrey.
Yeah, it's definitely better. I'm actually going to leave it at that, too, because that's the one that I would play. It's really interesting that they project almost exactly the same. But still, when you have Goff, the other one that beat it was the Goff, Chark, Brown, Montgomery with Wilson, Ingram, James Conner, Brian Robinson, and the Washington D. That's a pretty good lineup, and it's much less owned and projects better.
Okay, so that's the Fields build. Where'd you want to go next? Did you want to say...
Let's try our guy.
Dirty Purdy?
Yeah, I like it.
All right. He's not expensive, so that's good news.
The only thing... Okay, you think Debo's out.
I mean, I don't know for sure. I don't think that he's going to play. And if he plays, I think he's playing on a limited basis.
One thing I will say, I like the way you're setting it up. We're going to move off of Christian McCaffrey, and we're going to go Ayuk and Kittle.
Do we need to go Ayuk and Kittle? Can we just go Purdy Kittle?
You could probably just go Purdy Kittle, hope for that explosion again, and it all adds up because you're putting the onesie position with your quarterback. Hopefully it's him that does it. But I was going to say, too, Jawan Jennings is getting more work. If we need the money, if we go Ayuk and then decide what's it look like when we drop Ayuk to Jennings, you could double stack it up and see what happens.
Is there any Raider you want to use?
That's the issue. I think you just have to take a shot with Adams.
With Adams and just hope it works out?
Why don't they just pepper him like...
I mean, they sustained some injuries in their secondary. McLaurin got the best of them last week. I have no confidence in Stidham, but...
The other thing is you're flipping the build in the sense that it's only he's 500 less than McCaffrey,
yeah,
and you're
using the other side of
separating
the
that
game.
money to use it on the opposite side.
So that gives you $5,000 left per spot. That means Stevenson, Patriots works out really well. That leaves you right around $5,000 again. You can fit in Garrett Wilson. We need to find someone cheap at running at receiver, basically.
I think
DJ Chark's actually not a bad option here at $4,300 to get you up a little bit, gives you a little piece of that game if you wanted it, or you could use Jamal Williams.
I was just going to say, I think we need to use Jamal Williams. This is what we talked about earlier, and it literally makes perfect sense in this spot, too.
All right, so let's get him, and we'll get Ramondre.
And we'll do our Ramondre thing and
Patriots
see where we land.
D. Now we have 2 receivers and a flex for $5,200. So obviously, I mean, Garrett Wilson and Drake London fit into this lineup pretty well.
Well, we have to go to Garrett. We have to see, can we get to the same build we had?
Garrett Wilson
is the guy, and then what do we land on?
Drake London, and then $5,300 for a flex. It's that Algier Brian Robinson spot. It's like the same lineup, but it's with Brock Purdy.
I got an extra piece than you again, though, because I went with Ayuk. You're not going to go with Ayuk?
No, I didn't use Ayuk.
So let's not use him to use London and see what happens. I know what you're saying now. What did you say it leaves us?
$5,300.
Yeah, so it's our guy. We plug him in.
Brian Robinson. Boom.
And we're already hoping that thing becomes legit anyway. I mean, it's actually... Oh, no, I don't want double Atlanta. And we have London, which leverages Algier, and we go Robinson. This is a nice lineup, 120. The lowest owned of anything we've built yet at 120. And it's only 6 off our original optimal, which is massive ownership.
And it gets you off McCaffrey.
It's off everything.
You use McCaffrey against everyone else.
It's off everything. You're using Adams for $500 less than McCaffrey. You're using Robinson over Algier because you have London. Again, we know London's getting ownership. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, well, let's see how ownership truly shakes out in the end. I think people will need more access to cheap guys at running back to be able to pay up because they don't like the pay down wide receivers. Yeah, this is a good lineup here. And also, you're using the New England D because you're using San Francisco skill players, where you're setting it up that I'm dropping down that $300 where I think people are going to use the defense against Stidham. You're using Adams in there as well. So, yeah, I like that one quite a bit too.
So in terms of optimal rate, in terms of ownership at quarterback, obviously this isn't going to necessarily translate. Not everyone just stacks up their entire lineup. Although, what would you say the percentage of the field that uses a quarterback uses a stack? 80%?
If someone has the numbers, I don't want to guess it. I think it is high, but I don't think it's that high.
Put it this way, it's much higher now than it was 3 years ago.
That's the best way to say it, yes.
Goff and Fields do project to be the highest owned quarterbacks this week. 12%, 9%, nothing critical. Then it's Daniel Jones, Mahomes. Then it actually is Brock Purdy, weirdly enough, tied with Aaron Rodgers and Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence down at 6%. But in terms of optimal rate this week, this is fucking mind-blowing. Who do you think the top 5 quarterbacks are in optimal this week?
Goff and Fields.
Nope.
Goff?
Nope.
How's Goff?
Goff and Fields aren't in the top 5.
That seems off.
That does seem off, right?
Let me just see. Okay, so I'll tell you something. Brady.
Yep, number 1.
Is going to pop because he just always does. Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones is 6.
Okay, Mahomes.
Mahomes is 7.
Wow, then this is
Brady, Herbert, Rodgers, Minshew, Mac Jones.
That's insanity.
I know.
I don't even know.
I don't know how that works out. It's just no one has a higher projected ceiling this week than Herbert for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And since they've actually started playing good defense and winning, he doesn't do anything.
I think it should include Goff, Fields, Mahomes.
I agree.
Daniel Jones. Like those guys, at least to me.
Now, there's not a huge separation here. The top is 6.9%. And when you get down to Daniel Jones, who's like 8th, it's like 5.7%.
That's why.
It's very flat.
It's very flat.
If you ran the 10,000 simulations again, it probably tells you something different. With all those same names just kind of rearranged.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm trying to point out is that it's not as, like, Goff and Fields aren't, I mean, they are good plays. We know this is why they're going to be so highly owned.
Right.
But they're not exceptional plays compared to the field because everyone's just kind of level. Like, if you didn't want to go that way, I get it.
I was trying to look at another build right quick just with that same one. If we take out London and go to my guy, Jawan Jennings.
Okay.
I just wanted to see what that would do because, like, realistically, London could be 12 points, 15 points.
Yeah.
Jennings
they never score touchdowns.
Doesn't get the points, but he's cheap enough to unlock it. I really don't like it as much. What I'd rather look at is, I guess, Ayuk, because we talked about it at the start, so we can do one more with him quickly.
This is where I think we have to lose Jamal Williams and get to DJ Chark at receiver, because then it saves us the money.
So then we have to lose Wilson.
Do we?
I think we have to lose Ramondre.
Yeah. Okay, we can lose Ramondre. That's not the end of the world.
Because then, it's for sure this. I've got it. It just makes sense. Again, you can pick your defense at the end, but
if we take out,
it's like it's Algier and Robinson leaves you 2,800 for a defense.
I mean,
so you play 3 5K running backs, which is pretty unique, I think, on this slate.
How do you feel about Zach Moss?
He's in the mix too if you want to use him.
All right, so we can go Zach Moss.
You can take out Brian Robinson and go Zach Moss with Algier now that we're not playing London, and it lands you on Patriots D.
Or you can just use Jamal Williams instead of Algier, and you still use Patriots D.
Well, I'm saying if you go Williams, Algier, and Zach Moss.
Oh, I have Zach Moss, Jamal Williams, and Brian Robinson.
Yeah, same thing. I just meant, I was just saying because we're not using London now. I'm flipping.
You
back
can, yeah. I
Algier.
Listen. How convinced are you that Algier is going to outscore Cordero Patterson?
No idea.
You know, I could use the rangefinder to figure this out. I bet you it likes Cordero Patterson more because.
Yeah, do it. Try, we used that last week. It did not work on somebody, but
it definitely worked on DK versus Marquise Goodwin when it was like, no, don't do that, please. Let's see. Side 1, we're going to have who were the 2 players that I said? Algier
versus Cordero Patterson. Yeah.
Algier versus Cordero.
This lineup does not project very good either.
Shocking.
Pretty bad.
Let's calculate this. Let's run 10,000 simulations.
It's also because London basically is Ayuk. Injuries or not, he's going to score the same or more just on pure volume probably.
Yeah, and maybe he sneaks. If he sneaks into the end zone, like he's a must-have.
It's just like, what does Purdy do to get there? That's the thing. If he gets dragged along, it's going to be with those guys.
So Cordero beats Algier in DraftKings points 54% of the time. So it's like a coin flip.
Yeah, that's...
But the upside for Cordero is like the...
Do Brian Robinson Gibson.
Ooh, that's interesting. Brian. You can do these for 2v2, by the way. What's the difference between Brian Robinson and Brian Robinson Jr.? Oh, boy.
An extra row in an Excel spreadsheet that feeds into the software.
Yeah, that's never fun, though.
No.
Let's see. So Gibson. Or Gibby. And... deselect and go to Robinson. I'll put in Junior. That's probably his official name. See what that one says. And I can tell you right now that if I look at the inputs for the Washington game, it has Antonio Gibson low on the market share of rushing, but increasing Jonathan Williams because of that injury, but still seeing a much larger share. Like Brian Robinson, we only have projected as 3% of the target share, which I believe if Gibson is hurt will be much higher than that.
Yeah.
By much higher, it'd be like 6%, not 3%, which is a substantial difference. You're doubling your output. So instead of those 1 to 2 targets, it's 2 to 4 targets, and that could be the difference, couldn't it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was just wondering, like the...
Brian Robinson outscores Antonio Gibson 2/3 of the time, 67 to 33%.
And Gibson could be out.
And Gibson could be out.
So that's the... You know what I mean? That, to me, at whatever you're... I don't know what you're seeing the ownership at right now between Algier and Robinson.
It's...
The only problem is
Algier is high. But if Gibson is declared out, Robinson goes way out.
Yeah, and it flips. So that's the only problem.
You know who I'm not going back to? That stupid Miles Sanders. Fucked me last week. I made every bad play there was to be made last week. It's incredible.
The only thing I was saying is this week, I don't think Hurts even plays, but if he somehow did, wouldn't they protect him more?
Yeah, but Sanders is banged up too.
It's true.
Like if he doesn't go, then we get Boston Scott, who is $4,000. That would be fun. And that's just a last-second Sunday morning jam, isn't it? Like, oh, Boston Scott, here we go. And he scores like 7 points.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do that, but man, I can't make this work any other way. So I was trying to mess around with it further, but I think that Brock Purdy stack is good. I just don't know how. Like, how do you think he gets there? He's got 15 or 16 plus points.
It's all through Kittle, and you know what? It might be through McCaffrey, which
be.
You can't play because then no lineups work.
Well, is there any other Raider that you would feel confident in playing?
No.
Who would Stidham have a connection with?
Mac Hollins, because he was on the practice squad the entire year until all of a sudden he was a start. Keelan Cole, although Renfro's back now.
Mac Hollins, though, 4,200. I'm just going to try this real quick.
All right, let's throw in Mac Hollins. We're building good lineups today.
No, we're really not, but this is the fun part in it. So we're getting late in the season here, Pat. We can do this if we want. Let's try... how would we do this? I'm going to actually leave Robinson out for a sec. I do still want to keep Williams in for a second because we're really going off of the game that probably is the best game environment in the spot. So let's go Purdy, Williams, McCaffrey, Hollins, Wilson, Kittle.
Okay, hold on.
Sorry.
Purdy,
Jamal Williams.
And Christian McCaffrey.
Yep.
Instead of Adams.
And then you're going Mac Hollins in the wide receiver with Wilson, who we've been playing, Garrett. And then George Kittle in the tight end.
I mean, you can...
And now I want to see if I can get Ramondre because the defense is only 2,600.
You can use Ramondre.
Perfect. So
yeah.
we want that. And that lands us on 5,500, which is what we're already at with Wilson. So you've got to go see if there's another guy there that you like.
I don't think that there is. There's not.
Oh, there is. His name is Lazard, especially if Watson is out. Did you watch that last week? What, do you get, 11 targets? Yeah, 11 targets.
Mercedes Lewis was getting bombs down the field.
Mercedes Lewis is like Zylstra. Like
no, I understand that,
but
I'm just saying that, like, trying to pick the random Patriots or Packers receiver who's going to do well is.
But if Watson's out, you got to, like, Lazard has to be a good play. Going against Minnesota, the
have to be a good.
It's a great matchup. You'd have an
injury
be like
that makes Mean Gene Segura.
Okay. Let's say he doesn't have to be a great play. No one has to be a great player or is a great play, but it is a good. It's an injury spot. Someone's out. It's with Aaron Rodgers at home against a good matchup. It's a good play on paper, at least, is what I'm saying. This projects for 120, Pat, with Watson in still.
Could we, No, we already have too many 49ers as it is. Like, can we just go up to? Why aren't we using Zay Jones, who's great every week?
So how much is he?
5,000. It leaves 500 on the table, but like whatever. You could get up to Niners D if you wanted to, instead of Patriots D.
Yeah, still, who else can we move? That's the only question.
No one really. We'd have to move Garrett. We just don't use Garrett Wilson.
It's same 5,500 in the flex somehow if we take him out because he's the same price as Williams.
Well, yeah.
So I was gonna say take out Williams, move McCaffrey back up, and then change it around in the flex, but it's not any more benefit to us.
Like for me, I out of all the receivers that are left between $5,000, $5,500 and down, now that we've used Garrett Wilson, I like Zay Jones the best. And since we're using Patriots D and Stevenson, we can't use Myers. Like I'd still almost prefer Drake London over Allen Lazard.
Yeah, one thing I will say too is we're leaving Kansas City guys out of everything, and they are going to score points at home.
Hardman's back this week,
which I think affects McKinnon.
Yes, I can see that.
Which I also think is why, again, we're $100 shy here of getting to the 5,500. If you move things around, you can kind of get there.
Like Juju projects really well.
Yeah, he's also 5,600, I believe, the same as. Isn't Pacheco 56?
Is he 56? Let's see.
Yep.
Yes.
They're both 56, and Juju actually projects better by a decent sum. How was Juju on the optimal?
Very good. Very, very high. And very good in terms of leverage score as well, because no one's using him. Let's see, optimal results. Juju Smith-Schuster, 7% ownership, 13% optimal rate. One of the highest leverage scores behind Chris Godwin, Keenan Allen. Then it's Juju at receiver. And Terry McLaurin.
I know you can play them both, no problem, but I will say this. I've had very good success with this in the past. Playing Garrett Wilson at 5,500 with your quarterback Mike White. And yes, they connect for the couple games that they've played together and done well together. But my point would be I've had better success playing the guy that has the best quarterback or one of the best in the league. I still like Allen, but Allen and Mahomes are the best when you play guys attached to them. Sometimes good things happen. So I'll just say that if you want to play for the $100 more to have Juju in there, I wouldn't fault you. But we can get to both of them in some of these builds. I just meant in general. It's tough. I think you'd have to go like take out Williams. You lose access to that game. Run McCaffrey up top. Then you have to take out Lazard. I'll give you the lineup because it's what you will like and see if you can get it. But you can do all of it together. Is if you go London. I forget who's going into the flex here, but I'm just doing it based off what we talked about. And Wilson. I'll see how it projects. Wow, 124.
So
Listen to the build.
That's the best one since we did the random optimal at the beginning.
Yes, so it's Purdy, McCaffrey, Kittle, run it back with Mac Hollins, secondary stack of Ramondre and New England D, and then you go Juju, London, and Garrett Wilson. You're using a wide receiver in the flex.
How much is Judy? Judy's 60. Oh, Judy's 64.
6,400. That's expensive. Pretty interesting lineup, though. And obviously, you could move Garrett Wilson into the wide receiver spot and play Pacheco. It's not going to project as well, but if you just said, look, I actually think it is going to be a Pacheco week, I'd rather go there than try and risk a wide receiver, it still projects for 121, so it's not the worst.
We'll do two more quarterbacks. Do you want to build this Brady one out?
Yeah, I think we should, especially with the Godwin situation, where you've got him in that, not a situation, just in that, like you said, he's really good leverage on the slate from what you're seeing on your side. He's projecting out good there that it would make sense to go there.
Brady, Godwin, and I have a theory on this game about a running back.
Oh, God, I think that's bad, but go ahead.
Chuba Hubbard at $4,900. I think he makes the most logical sense against Tampa Bay versus Donta Foreman. They're going to swing him to the outside, and they're going to throw him passes. They don't throw Foreman passes. And the Bucs run D is still very good.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that. Like, is DJ Moore just the very logical choice? Or
I think you just play DJ
My
Moore.
guy, Tommy Tremble, $2,500.
What is Hubbard even anything to be optimal on your list?
No.
Like, he can't be near that list.
No, he is very bad.
And this is where I think when people do that, they go outside. Of course, it fits the game script at least, so it's fine. But like, obviously, Godwin still projects pretty good, so that's why we're using him. But yeah,
Chuba Hubbard base projection 6 points.
Yeah, DJ Moore is the guy to use here. And it's up to you if you want to double stack Brady. I probably would.
I don't. I mean, maybe Cade Otton, like you mentioned.
I would.
I'm just sick of playing Evans and him scoring 7 points.
I'll tell you this. I would do it two ways. I would go with Otton. Here's the thing about Godwin. Why we love him, why I love that they love him, because I think he's a great play this week, is that he's a PPR guy. If he gets the touchdowns, he can, for sure. It's usually from outside the 20, it's solid. But when they get up there, it's the tight end, either Brady or Otten. They've unleashed Otten out. It looks like he crushed Brady in snaps and everything, routes run, all that last week. But it's Evans or it's Fournette. That's typically what we will see once they get up there. So I like Brady, Godwin,
Fournette
or
okay.
Brady, Godwin, Otten. That's the builds that I like when you're going with it, because you're hoping Godwin just racks the PPR, maybe gets that
just
one.
like Fournette. He's going to do the same thing down the field, but maybe he scores the touchdowns, not Otten, not Evans. It's going to be Fournette. I'm good with that. He had 9 catches last week.
Right. And it's just again, I don't know if it's, Brady's always done this somewhat, but when it comes with, sort of what his game looks like now, he's got a little bit less pep in the step. So if he has to get a check down, it's always there. And they also do use Leonard Fournette. We didn't talk a lot about him on the show yet, but this is what we've been talking about all season, where his usage just sort of dived. It's because they want to save him for this time of year. And that's what they've pretty much done the last couple of years. So I think Fournette and him makes sense with Godwin. You've got DJ Moore on the run back. You get into a cheaper territory now. I think we've established that, we can go Ramondre. Let's try our just standard setup here and see what it looks like. Ramondre, New England D.
Are we just waiting for Ramondre to score like 10 points here?
I hope not. But
I wish I had $100 more in this lineup that I've just built.
So what do you have in there right now?
I have Ramondre and Patriots D.
And then Wilson?
No, there's no Garrett Wilson. It's $4,300 for a tight end where I could use Evan Ingram, but that is not enough.
Oh, God, it's an overstack.
What's that?
Evans. I just built what we'd had all day. So I put Ramondre with New England D. I put Garrett Wilson. We both said, why don't we just play Evan Ingram? It lands you on Mike Evans at 6,500. But ETN's there at 64, but we're playing Ingram. So that's kind of the idea where you're setting it up that way.
So I actually put James Conner into this lineup too.
Yeah, so let me see what that does here. Let me just try this.
I put James Conner with Drake London as a mini stack. And then I have Stevenson with Patriots D.
Okay, let's try that actually, because that gets us off.
I mean, I could just say screw it, play Houston D.
Oh, that's why you wanted the $100 to get to Ingram.
Yeah.
Man.
It's close.
I mean, to be honest, though.
I mean, as a skinny stack, this works out. We take out Fournette, plug Stevenson into Fournette spot, and use Garrett Wilson, and it all completely works.
Yeah, I was actually going to say just take out DJ Moore, don't run it back, and you just land on Ingram with 5,600. You can play Smith or Wilson.
You play Wilson.
Oh, wow.
$100 left.
Oh, weird. I actually have Juju on my stuff set up differently here, but it's where Juju beats Wilson, too.
If Juju beats Wilson, I mean, you have the money for Juju here instead of...
Well, the only reason I brought it up is because it projects at 126.
That's the best lineup we've built so far?
It's tied for it, but at the lowest ownership of anything we've built so far.
So Brady, this one still has Fournette. So
Yep.
it's Brady, Fournette, Connor, Godwin, Juju, London, Ingram, Ramondre, and Patriots D.
Yeah, that's a nice lineup.
It's going to be great when Brady 41 for 49 for 235 yards, 14 catches to Godwin, they score 6 points.
Yeah, I just mean, like, that's the thing. The only challenge, I guess it's not a challenge, but like I keep bringing it up, is if you're leaving out Detroit, Chicago. You're just hoping that game busts. But then how does it bust that much?
Well, I can give you a pretty easy way that it busts. Like, it's not that you need it to bust. It's that you need it not to go completely off.
Right. Or it gets spread. The other interesting thing is it could spread.
Zylstra 3 touchdowns instead of... Like, if Amon-Ra scores a touchdown last week, I have a much better week.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he just doesn't. So you're like, oh, fuck, this sucks.
So I'm saving this. The one thing I will say, like, a lineup like this is a prime spot where you're different enough to play Garrett Wilson, but you're also remembering with the Juju play that he's attached to Mahomes. If he gets there for you and the rest of the game goes as you'd like it to or as it should, I think you're in a better spot. I'm going to take out Fournette, though, and add in Williams. So like I said, Williams makes sense to me just because I kind of want to try and get a piece of that game for a second. And then I'm going to go back to Otten now, like we talked about off the top, because I want to double Brady, and I think you want to attach tight end to your quarterback, so I'm okay with that. If I take out Juju, it leaves me 7,400.
Who are the receivers at? So that's the problem, though.
Well, I left it with Ramondre, New England. I put London with Connor still.
So you can change that up a bit if you want.
Yes, we could. Let's take out London, Connor, and go back to our DJ Moore to get a more conventional and see what it looks like. So now, Pat, just so you know where I'm at, I've got Tom Brady, Godwin, Otten, run it back with Moore. I've got Ramondre New England, which we've stuck with, and then I've got Jamal Williams to get a piece of that game.
And so what do we have to fill out, and how much money do we have?
$6,900
Per player?
Very nice number of $6,900 for 2 spots for wide receiver and flex. Can we get McCaffrey in 48?
I mean,
we get McCaffrey in 48. Can we get McCaffrey?
Dotson's down there. Do you have any interest in banged up Eckler?
Not really. I hate Eckler, though.
What if you, instead of doing McCaffrey, you use Barkley and Juju?
Does that work?
Yeah. You probably even get more expensive than Juju.
You got a $5,800 guy.
So it's Juju.
Yeah, it's Juju.
It has to be a receiver, right?
123. Yep. Projects okay. 123. It's what about this though? Let's take out Juju. Let's take out Barkley. Let's take out New England D, and let's go with the San Fran D and McCaffrey. 4,500. Who does that get us?
Curtis Samuel, DJ Chark.
It's probably Curtis Samuel.
Marquise Goodwin.
120.
Actually, it lands you right on Isaiah Hodgins.
I think we had the build the first one. The first one looked way better.
Yeah, I think so too.
And again, so it goes back. I mean, it's been a theme this week, but when I talked about Goff, Williams, Amon-Ra, it's literally the exact same thing, except Fournette might actually catch more passes. It's Brady, Fournette, and Godwin. It's your PPR guy, Godwin to Amon-Ra, similar price tags. I think Godwin's much less, actually. Isn't he 1,000 less this week? Yeah. Yeah, he is. So, I mean, this is a good lineup that we just had there.
One more. Pick any quarterback on the board you want to go with.
All right, let me scroll the board for a second just to see. Not Denver. I don't want to do the Mahomes. We'll say the same thing every week. I personally think you keep paying the rake with it because he ends up getting 8 to 10% and never shows up. So I'm off that. The Indy New York total with Daniel Jones is only 39.
Outdoors in New York, probably pretty cool.
We didn't build the Trevor Lawrence.
Do you want to do that?
I think we should.
Do we do Minshew or do we do Lawrence?
We do Lawrence because you're going against ETN by saying he doesn't catch passes, so it's literally the perfect spot to do it.
And like
you mentioned Zay and Ingram. I think it's Lawrence, Zay, and Ingram.
Lawrence, Zay, Ingram. I mean, that's cheap.
It's cheap enough. And I saw a stat. I don't know if it'll be in the tidbits or not, so I'll just say it here. But like the one thing of it was like again, forget who did this. I apologize. I always reference it when I do tag him on Twitter. But the point was, it said player A, player B, player C, and it showed all their numbers across all these games, and it was player A was Zay, player B was Ingram, and player C was Christian Kirk, and Kirk has actually fell off the map since how he started the season. When everyone's like, oh, it's because they paid him the money, he's going to go off. That's true, and he can bounce back at any time, but I don't hate your point of going with like Lawrence, Zay, Ingram.
Do we have any Texan we want? I say no.
I say no. It's probably more, but I don't love him.
Or Cooks.
Yeah, if you think Cooks is back, the resurgence.
I mean, he is back, but like how?
No, I mean in the sense of from his result last week.
Yeah, the thing is, he's $4,800. He makes a lot of this work pretty easily.
What did he get last week? 9. Let's do it for the sake.
He scored a touchdown last week. I mean, I would prefer to do this without any Texans.
Let's try and do it without for now, and just go to our original plays.
Okay, so that leaves us with. Do you like Stevenson or Connors more?
I like Stevenson more probably, especially if we get the Harris news, but you can play both. I think you could actually play both in this lineup. I think we should consider that.
Can you do this? No, let's see here. How much is my guy, Brian Robinson? Oh, that works out perfectly.
Let me just wait before you say it. I want to see where mine went. See if we end up in two different
I have a lineup built. Let's see how close it is to mine.
Mine doesn't work, so we'll go off it.
Mine works. It has $100 left over, too.
Okay, 1 second. So let me just delete these couple guys. So who do you got? Lawrence, Zay, Ingram?
Zay, Ingram. Just triple stack that side.
Leave it. I'm fine.
McCaffrey and Niners D.
Okay.
Stevenson.
Okay, McCaffrey and Niners D. I thought you had Stevenson the whole time, so I left him.
I do have Stevenson.
No, you did. I meant got rid of the D, so I swapped it. We're good.
Garrett Wilson.
Yep.
Drake London, Brian Robinson.
Wilson. Oh, this is a good lineup because you haven't unlocked it yet.
Would you get up to Algier, get rid of London?
No, we got it. Just wait. I want to see this. Oh, baby. 129.
Best one yet?
Best one yet, but I just thought of something. Don't
get rid of Niners D, go to Patriots D and move up?
No, I can't get off my thought here. Don't get me off my thought. Take out. Oh, it's because it's Ramondre. All I was trying to see was if I changed Ramondre to your guy, James Conner.
What can you do?
It leaves me still with the Patriots D, though, unless you take something else down.
I mean, that's not the end of the world.
That's not the end of the world. It projects for 127. So the original's better and more correlated. I like it better.
I do like that with, let's see. What if you don't use McCaffrey here?
So take out McCaffrey.
Take out McCaffrey and Niners D. Now what are we left with?
I think what I would do, though, is if I'm doing that, I'm taking out McCaffrey and trying to get Ramondre and Connor.
Yeah.
And then that's what I was doing originally. That's when I said I don't have a build here. It left me on 7,100. Or sorry, it left me on 7,400 because I went with Patriots D. And there was like nobody there. It was Nick Chubb for 7,300.
I mean, do you hate Nick Chubb that much? Like as like a random one-off play?
Not really, but
yeah,
I don't.
So $7,400 for a flex. Jacobs, Chubb. I mean, Devonta Smith?
I guess.
We have no piece of this Eagles team.
No, I would try and do it a little different, I think. I would try and do like, are we $100 shy again? Who's 5,100? Did we say somebody?
There's a running back who's $5,100.
Yeah, who was
Bam
it?
Knight.
Oh, Jamal.
Jamal Williams is 5,000.
Yeah, that screws it up too. What I was trying to say is instead of Garrett Wilson, do we go to the other safety play or safety valve in Amon-Ra as another good receiver in a good spot to get a piece of that game, just collect the PPR points? But it doesn't work either, so...
I mean, I wish there was someone below Drake London that we both liked. I mean, this is a spot where let's get rid of Drake London and use Brandon Cooks. That saves you that $100 you need.
Okay, let's try that. Does it work? Cooks is 48. Oh, we have it now. Now it's our guy Robinson.
Yeah.
This is a sweet build. Yeah, this is good.
So no Wilson, but there's Amon-Ra in this now. And yeah, Brian Robinson's $5,200.
It doesn't project as much. It does project, however, for 123.4.
Well, that's perfect.
Easy as 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. But it is Trevor Lawrence, Zay Jones, Ingram. Run it back with Cooks. You've got Ramondre with the New England D. You've got James Conner and Brian Robinson in there. And then you've got Amon-Ra as sort of a piece of that Detroit game. You're still, again, you're not going to get pieces of every game in every lineup. It was just to bring it up. But yeah, I like the original that you had, and it was the best. So what was the best one that we had? Let me pull it up.
That was it. It was the Lawrence triple stack with McCaffrey and Niners D and Ramondre.
Yeah, it's a really good lineup. And gets even better if...
And gets even worse if the Jags are just like, fuck it, we're playing for next week.
It's possible. Yeah.
But it does get you off that ETN chalk as well. All right. I'm pretty happy with this. Can't wait to lose all my money again this week.
This is a winning week.
Oh, it's a winning week. Oh, thank God.
Next week's the losing one, but stay tuned. We'll have more picks next week.
So PME Listeners League for DraftKings for NFL and golf is already up. The one and done, $125 for the year. And you can have up to 5 entries in that. I mean, I'm going to have all my 5 entries and like use the same guy in all of them and just lose like I do every year. Either way, there's $50K up top, $35K. Almost like what you said with the DraftKings payout for the 22-22. The one and done's kind of set up very similar.
Very good payout structure.
Yeah,
yes.
like it just if you
and your money's safe, as we've established.
Yeah, your money is safe. It will be in a league safe. Publicly traded companies don't usually go buy
and
watches
it is. I'll add this. It is 125 USD, but good news, it's also 50,000 USD that you get paid out. So tie that together for you right now as well.
RunPureSports.com. What do you guys? Oh, I should probably mention.
We're back.
Showdown show for PGA back on Mayo Media Network.
Yeah, we'll do a fresh plug right now. Why not? But we're going to be back. RunPureSports.com. You guys can check all our stuff out there. All sports, one price. But the good news, Mayo Media Network, free shows. Round 2 and Round 3 showdown shows both this year. I'll be hosting. Last year was sort of a mishmash going back and forth. I'll be on both those shows this year, Thursday and Friday night on the channel. Pat and I will also be back for our Wednesday show, like we talked about at the top, to do the golf show live in studio as well. So it's going to be a good season.
And then back on Friday for football to end the year. You're
Round
going to be like 5 days a week on Mayo Media Network now.
After the tweet that you rehashed last night, the true story, grit, determination, resilience. People said there's some great comments under that, like this guy will never be back. What a loser. I remember, don't worry, these guys are worse than you on video. It couldn't be better. And now look at us, Pat. So just 3 short years, put your time in, work hard, get after it. You can get right back to the top if you try.
People forget that this is an entertainment product. I mean, I want to help people win. I know you want to help people win. But my job isn't to help you win. My job is to get you to tune into the show. And being an asshole really does help. I'm not going to lie to you.
Oh, that one was so weird. There was also good comments to people that are like, oh, Pat's so mean. And we knew it's the shtick. All it is. But they were like, he does not yell like that. Like some people were like, great job, Tambo. Never seen Pat that rattled. Like, that is good. That's hard to do. That show would be, that would be sent into places. They're like, what a loser. Like, look at this scene. But it's all good fun. It's definitely a good starting point to go back to when people say, oh, I want to get started in comedy. content, just know you can go back to something like that and see how bad you truly were first time out. But I will stand by it, Pat. One, you switched it up. You're the host. I'm hosting things these days. I get how it works. You do get to choose where the show goes. Me being the over-prepared first-timer, I was ready for the same rankings we did in the first session. That did not happen. And if you listen to the rest of the show, I came prepared at least. I was pretty ready
the rest
overall.
That is a 90-second clip of an hour and a half show.
Yeah.
And the rest of the show is fine.
It was decent, but it was the best part.
And to hear Raza just like sitting there in the background. Pretty funny stuff.
Love that. Raza, my hero. I said it last night. The Kevin Durant, you the real MVP. That he saved me. He could have let just dead silence sit, but he gave it a good one-liner right after that kept it in check. So I was happy to see that thing rehashed. Great content, as always.
At Totegan Tambo on Twitter, runpuresports.com. runthesims.com for me and the projection system and the rangefinder tools, the lineup builder, the props. runthesims.com/Mayo to get that 10% off. DraftKings League, the one and done. You can find all the shit down in the description. All right, I'm Pat Mayo. Smash a like on the way out. I will see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!